My name's Keith, and I really enjoy making and repairing 3D targets. Kind of pan it around. You can see behind me a whole bunch of rebuilt foam 3D archery targets. So today's project is I am going to use EVA foam available from Harbor Freight, and I am going to attempt to build a 9-banded armadillo target. I'm going to use the EVA foam because it's smooth and it heals a little bit as the basic shell for most of the armadillo. I've got an old Reinhardt frog insert that I'm going to use as fill, just to stop arrows. It might jump around a little bit. I'm kind of new to this, but I do a lot of this target repair stuff. So, and I'll show you how I build it and how it turns out. Okay, so the first things first is I need to take the EVA foam, and there's two sides, and actually if you look, this side has a little bit of texture on it. And if you look at an armadillo shell, they have a little bit of texture on them. So I think this would actually be kind of a cool texture for the exterior of the shell. So first things first is I'm going to take the insert and kind of bend the foam around it. Okay, so if you see, I have a little bit of overhang for whatever my fill is. So now I am going to and I've got a little bit of just a little bit of a template down here. So if I fold this over side, I'm going to move this up and I'm going to take these kind of puzzle piece edge things off. Okay, so if we go like that, let me move my template. Okay, so this needs to be something like this. Okay, I'm going to make a few cuts, but then I'm going to turn the camera off because obviously you guys don't need to watch me cutting foam. And we will be jumping kind of in and out. Okay, first I need a knife for making the cuts. I picked these up at Harbor Freight. They're just little razor knives. You don't have to worry when they wear out. You can just pitch them. Go ahead and try.
It's on.
Okay, so I've kind of got the bottom profile of the shell done, and I've cut the little spikes off one edge, these little things. Save all these scraps. They're great to use as fill and little spacers. Okay, so now we fold it over. Okay, and it looks like it's going to be about right. So now all I need to do is to fold this over and cut this exact shape into the other side. So you just fold it in half. Use your trusty old Sharpie. Now one thing about 3D targets, everyone wants them to look perfect. They don't have to look perfect. They just got to look decent from 10 yards away. So if you're worried about perfection, you don't need to. Trust me, you or the guys at your club will be thrilled. And these targets are so expensive, and this target I'm building is going to cost me to make it probably less than $8. So, okay, so now I'm just going to cut out. I got these ideas, by the way. Check making foam EVA armor. Great ideas. This is kind of stealing some of those ideas. Obviously these are really sharp. So you don't want to go cutting your fingers off. Always use safety. Okay, so as you see, I've kind of cut out the rough shape for the shell. Now what we got to do is get it to fit. And we'll have to round the other side a little bit. I got to cut a little thing into here so I can round the back of it. And I'll decide if it might not even need that done. Now, one thing I've discovered that's working with awesome working with this foam for target purposes is that, and you can use anything foam for fill. I have a big tub of just old scrap foam that I keep. Like anytime I overshoot with the great stuff, which I use a lot of, anytime I have extra of that and it seeps out of something, I cut it off and I keep them. And you can use that as fill so it doesn't take as much foam. But to secure this for right now, I'm just going to use toothpicks. Toothpicks, you can leave them in the target. It won't hurt arrows. They cut really easy. So this is just kind of temporary to hold it in place. Just standard wood toothpicks. Until you break them.
They're simple to replace, though.
All right, so go ahead and kill it first.
Go.
Now, if you have troubles with the toothpick sometimes, because like you got to push down on the other side, I like just using the blue painter's tape to hold stuff in place, because it doesn't leave a whole lot of stuff that then you got to come back later and get rid of. All right, go ahead and
Go.
Okay, so if you notice, I put an arrow on here, and this just shows me where the front of the armadillo is, and then I've added a small cut to show where the end of the shell ends. Now the next thing is, the cool thing about EVA foam is you can hit it with a heat gun and it will kind of keep its shape. So to make life easier, I'm going to hit this with a heat gun. This is one of those Harbor Freight heat guns, 2 settings. I think it costs $12. So now we just heat it up a little bit, and this is also important to seal it so that paint will adhere better. Obviously this is foam rubber, so it can very easily get too hot. You don't want to melt it. If you get too close, it'll cause bubbles on your project, which are unsightly and make it hard to paint.
Go.
Okay, so now I am going to cut off the edges to give me that nice rounded appearance. And once again, always cut keep all your scraps. I'll show you stuff that you can use it for. Okay, so now this is going to be the front of the armadillo. This is going to be the tail area of the armadillo. Now I'm going to use EVA foam and cut the legs, cut the head, and I'll show you what that looks like. Then I'm going to pin it in place with toothpicks, and then I'm pretty much ready to foam it. And this target will be 9/10 complete.
Go.
Okay, so we've traced out a rough head. It's reasonably proportionate when you put the body on top of it. Okay, and then you need to leave a tab for something to attach it to. So my plan is I'm going to cut out 4 of these and make this 4 thick. And then that will, and I'll put a little bit of foam between each layer, and that will be a nice thick head that will stop arrows if you hit them. So now I just need to cut this out and then repeat it.
Go.
Okay, so you can see I've cut out the heads, and so when you put the 4 of them together, makes a decent head, and I can always trim that better once it's foamed and stuff, but there's going to be stuff to remove later anyway, so you don't need to be very detailed. And ears are great, but don't try to make ears too fiddly because they will just get shot off. It's easy to paint in a difference in the ear or just do one ear as opposed to trying to do 2 little fiddly ears. Now, you could save on this foam, and between each one, just these are the little edges of the stuff. You could put them in like this. Put your layers on top and foam in between them with great stuff. And just wrap it in saran wrap, and you'd have the same result. So that's why I'm saying don't get rid of these. So I'm going to do the same thing with the legs, and then I'll show you how to do the tail, then we'll foam it.
Go.
Okay, so this is the profile of the armadillo head. You can see I've just used these little pieces. You cut off the edges, and I've put some fillers in. So this area in the middle will be great stuff filled. And I've kept one so I can build more of the exact same thing. And you can see the shell once you apply the heat. See, it's not taped anymore, and it kind of keeps its shape. And this is basically one of those standard mat squares. So you're going to get, it's going to take 2 mat squares to build an armadillo. So out of each 4-pack, you can build 2 armadillos, and the 4 packs are like $9 from, and a can of great stuff, which this isn't going to use a whole can, is $4 at the most. Go ahead and turn it off. Quick distraction. This is a dragon made out of an old turkey target, and great stuff, and EVA foam for wings. So this is the kind of stuff you can build. Okay, so that is the finished kind of armadillo. I will show you what he looks like from the other underneath. Okay, from the underneath, you can see that it's all hollow. There's the legs. The back legs are just a box. The tail is the edges, just flipped over and toothpicked in place. Now, the hard part is wrapping the whole thing in saran wrap or drop cloth. Okay, so I have wrapped it in drop tape, and all my little scraps and stuff have gone into it. Now for the foam filling.